There are only 3 clubs in Spain that have never fallen from the top division. 2 names the world already knows: Real Madrid, FC Barcelona. The third is different. Athletic Bilbao, a club without a global empire, without endless spending, without abandoning who they are. And yet, for more than a century, they have remained beside giants. How did they do it? Let's find out. To understand Athletic Bilbao, you first have to understand how unusual this club really is. In modern football, success is usually built with money, global scouting, and constant change. Athletic Bilbao chose a different path, a path built on identity, local talent, and loyalty to tradition. For many, that model should have disappeared long ago. Instead, Bilbao remained. And to understand why, we have to go back to the beginning. Long before Spanish football became a global industry, Bilbao was already one of the places where the game was taking root. At the end of the 19th century, Bilbao was not just another city in northern Spain. It was an industrial and port city, connected to Britain through trade, mining, shipyards, and workers who brought more than tools and labor with them. They also brought football. But the game did not arrive only through British workers. It also came through young Basque students who had studied in Britain, discovered the sport there, and returned home wanting to play it in Biscay. In 1898, Juan Astorquia and a small group of Basque students began playing football at Lamiaco. At that point, Spanish football was still young, unstructured, and far from the global spectacle it would later become. 3 years later, in 1901, meetings at Café Garcia in Bilbao helped turn that early football passion into something more organized: Athletic Club. Even the name tells part of the story. Not Atletico, not a fully Spanish name, Athletic Club, an English spelling, preserved from the early days of the game, and still carried by the club more than a century later. But Athletic was not just born early. It became important early. In 1902, a combined team known as Club Bizkaia, formed with players from Athletic Club and Bilbao Football Club, traveled to Madrid for the Copa de la Coronación. They won it. And in the final, they beat Barcelona. 1 year later, in 1903, Bilbao Football Club was absorbed into Athletic Club, strengthening the institution that would become one of the pillars of Spanish football. So when Athletic Bilbao is placed beside Real Madrid and Barcelona, it is not because of nostalgia alone. It is because Athletic was there when Spanish football was still being built. Before television money, before global brands, before the modern giants became what they are today, Bilbao was already part of the story. To understand the club, you have to understand where it comes from. The club was born in the Basque Country, a region in northern Spain with one of the strongest local identities in Europe. The Basques are known for a culture, traditions, and history distinct from the rest of Spain. They also have something rare, their own language. Euskara, the Basque language, is not derived from Latin and is unrelated to Spanish, French, or the major Indo-European languages around it. Its origins remain one of Europe's great linguistic mysteries. That sense of difference has shaped the region for generations. Industry, hard work, local pride, and a deep attachment to community. These became part of the Basque identity, and in Bilbao, football grew inside that environment. For many clubs, football is entertainment. For many others, it is business. But for Athletic Bilbao, football became representation, a way for a city and a people to see themselves on the pitch. That is why Athletic has often meant more than results. Because in Bilbao, The club was never just a club. It was identity in motion. Most football clubs say they care about identity. Athletic Bilbao built rules around it. For decades, the club has followed one of the most unusual sporting models in modern football. Athletic traditionally signs players connected to the Basque Country, either born there or developed through Basque football structures. That means the club voluntarily limits its own market in a sport obsessed with expansion. While rivals searched the world for talent, Athletic looked close to home. While others spent millions on stars, Bilbao invested in development. While modern football became increasingly global, Athletic chose to remain local. And that decision changed everything. Because it made success harder, the talent pool became smaller, mistakes became more costly, there were fewer shortcuts. But it also created something many richer clubs never truly built: continuity, belonging, connection between team and city. When Athletic players wear the shirt, many supporters do not see strangers representing a badge. They see their own people representing their home. That is why this policy survived, and that is why it still matters. And this is where the story becomes difficult. Because modern football does not reward limitations. It rewards scale, money, and access. The biggest clubs recruit from every continent. They build global brands. They replace mistakes with expensive solutions. Athletic Bilbao chose a narrower road, a smaller pool of players, fewer options in the transfer market, less margin for error. When rivals lose a star, they can buy another. When systems fail, they can spend again. For clubs built on identity, every decision carries more weight. And history is full of traditional clubs that could not keep up with modern football. Some lost their level, some lost their identity, some lost both. That is why many expected Athletic to slowly fade away, not collapse overnight, just become another proud name from the past. Respected, historic, but no longer relevant at the highest level. That prediction never came true. Athletic Bilbao did not step aside. They kept their place at the highest level of Spanish football. Since La Liga began in 1929, only 3 clubs have played every single season in the top division. Athletic Bilbao is one of them. 95 seasons, more than 3,000 matches, a continuous presence across generations. And they did not stay there quietly. They built a record that still stands among the strongest in Spain. 8 league titles. With 24 Copa del Rey trophies, Athletic stands second all-time, behind Barcelona, but ahead of Real Madrid. 3 Spanish Super Cups. But numbers alone do not tell the full story, because there was a time when Athletic Bilbao were not just competing, they were overwhelming. In the early years of La Liga, Athletic Bilbao built one of the most relentless attacking sides Spanish football had ever seen. Season after season, their goal tallies kept rising, pushing past 100 and then well beyond it. Across the early 1930s, their numbers reached levels that still stand out in the history of this competition. This was not survival, this was dominance. And Spanish football history would go on to record some of the most extraordinary results ever seen in the league. A 12-1 victory over FC Barcelona, still the largest winning margin in league history. A 9-5 win against Racing Santander, the highest scoring match ever recorded. And a 6-6 draw with Atletico Madrid, the most goals ever seen in a drawn game. Records that go beyond statistics, moments that became part of the league's identity. Nowhere is that legacy more deeply rooted than in the Copa del Rey, a competition where Athletic Bilbao has returned to the final again and again, across generations, where success was not an exception, but a pattern. And at the center of that history stands a name that still defines the tournament. Telmo Zarra, 81 goals. a record untouched, in a competition where some of the greatest players in football history never reached the same heights. In an era defined by global superstars, this remained his domain. That is the scale of what Athletic Bilbao built. Not just presence, not just resistance, but a legacy strong enough to shape the history of Spanish football itself. Today, Athletic Bilbao is not living on nostalgia. They remain one of the strongest and most respected clubs in Spain. Their home is San Mamés, a modern stadium with more than 53,000 seats, built in the same city where the club's story began more than a century ago. The badge is the same, the identity is the same, and the expectations are still real. Athletic continues to compete for European places, challenge the country's biggest teams, and develop players through the values that shaped the club from the beginning. While much of football changes every season, Bilbao still feels unmistakably Bilbao. Modern enough to survive, traditional enough to remain unique. That balance is almost impossible to maintain, and it is one of the reasons the club still matters today. Athletic built a different kind of wealth. A club rooted in its people. A shirt carried by generations. A stadium filled with belonging. An identity that cannot be bought and cannot be replicated. This is not just a football club. It is continuity. It is memory. It is something that refuses to fade. That is why Athletic Bilbao still stands among Spain's great clubs. Not because it followed the game, but because it never forgot who it was.